Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning to remember the life and heroics of Warrant Officer 1, John Stephen Chrin. I want to thank Commander Glenn Hoffer of VFW Post 9639 in Shellsville for putting together the honor guard for today's event. I'd also like to thank Senator Chris Gebhardt and Representative John Schlegel for joining us this morning. If you would now face the flag and join me in singing the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our county and our nation suffered a great loss when John Chrin was killed in Vietnam. John was a Lebanon County native and graduated from Lebanon Catholic High School. He attended Mansfield State College before enlisting in the United States Army during his junior year. He graduated from flight school with honors and volunteered for further training as a medical evacuation pilot. In the Vietnam War, John flew more than 125 missions before setting off to rescue yet another wounded soldier on October 13th, 1971. Sadly, John's aircraft crashed and all 5 souls aboard perished. The bridge we dedicate today doesn't just bear John's name. It represents our gratitude and respect for the selfless sacrifices he made. When we pass the signs for the Warrant Officer 1 John Stephen Chrin Memorial Bridge, let's pledge to remember the dedication and bravery he displayed. John was the best of us. And the signs bearing his name will forever be a reminder of that. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Phil Arnold. Phil is a 1967 graduate of Lebanon Catholic High School and a graduate of Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Phil entered the U.S. Army in January 1969 and served in Vietnam from September 1969 to September 1970. Wounded on April 19, 1970, Phil's awards include the Military Order of the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. Phil's the commander and legislative officer for the Pennsylvania Department of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. He holds local and national positions with the Disabled American Veterans and is a member of his local Veterans of Foreign Wars. Phil is also active with the Military Share Food Distribution Program at the Myerstown VFW. Phil ensures the successful observance of Warrant Officer 1 John Stephen Chrin Day in Lebanon every year on October 13th. Phil? Here you are.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. I'm the guy, I was one of the classmates of John Chrin. I'm the guy on senior year. I picked John Chrin up at 12th and Lehman on my way to Lebanon Catholic High School. John would tell me when I was late, and he'd also never chip in for gas. Having said that, we all have our friends from high school that we're not going to tell all those stories. John entered the service on his own. What I'd like to do is just refer quickly. 30 years ago, the Vietnam Wall was brought to Lebanon County at the Lebanon Senior High School Stadium. It just happens to be 30 years ago this year, 1995. What I'd like for people to do, if you have a copy or you have a family member has a copy of this, please take the time. In here are the list of 44 individuals, including John Chrin, who were killed in the Vietnam era, in Vietnam. Whether they were volunteered or whether they were voluntold, they went and served their country. John would not want this to be strictly about himself. I knew him well and would love to have known him as an adult. If you get a chance, please find this. It has a biography on every veteran that was killed in Vietnam. I'm not going to read their name out of time constraints, but I would like to read something that was put on the back of this page. I would like to close with this. Not for fame or reward, not for place or for rank, not lured by ambition or goaded by necessity, but in simple obedience to duty as they understood it. These men suffered all, sacrificed all, dared all, and died. My respects to John Chrin.
Thank you, Phil. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. William Cipher. Bill is the Executive Director of the Friends of Vietnam Dust-Off, whose mission is to make the public aware of the service and sacrifice of the 3,400 aircrew members who flew unarmed combat medical evacuation helicopters on the most dangerous missions of the Vietnam War. Bill helped establish October 13th as Warrant Officer 1 John Stephen Chrin Day in the city and later county of Lebanon in 2015, as well as the annual memorial services at Holy Cross Cemetery. Bill participated in soliciting congressional sponsorship of the dust-off crews of the Vietnam War Congressional Gold Medal Act, which was signed into law by the President in 2024. He initiated the request to our office to memorialize the sacrifice of dust-off pilot Warrant Officer John Stephen Chrin. The legislation I introduced to that effect, House Bill 953, was amended into a different bill, which was signed into law by the governor as Act 17 of 2025. Bill? Thank you, sir.
First, I want to thank Representative Diamond and his staff for providing this opportunity and this honor for John, and to Congress, to Representative Schlegel for participating, and also for Senator Gephardt for their support of the bill. As stated, John was born in Lebanon in June 26, 1949, and graduated from Lebanon Catholic High School in 1967. In the spring of 1970, John was completing his junior year at Mansfield State College. The United States was starting to draw down American forces in Vietnam. Had John remained in college until '71, even if he were drafted after graduation, he most likely would not have been sent to Vietnam. But John wanted to fly. So on 28 April 1970, he enlisted in the Army for Warrant Officer Flight School. As an honor graduate, John had the choice of aircraft to fly. He volunteered for advanced training as a medical evacuation helicopter pilot, knowing he would be sent to Vietnam, knowing that he would be flying through the gunfire to pick up wounded back out to medical facilities. John arrived in Vietnam on 5 July 1971 and was assigned to the 57th Medical Detachment Helicopter Ambulance 68th Medical Group at Binh Thuy. Included in the first medical unit sent to Vietnam was the 57th Medical Detachment. Arriving in Vietnam in April of 1962, the 57th would remain throughout the next 11 years, being the last to leave Vietnam. The first 5 UH-1 Huey aircraft helicopters in Vietnam were assigned to the 57th Medical Detachment. In the combat theater, every unit is assigned a call sign and radio frequency. Each call sign and frequency were changed frequently so the enemy could not easily identify what unit was where. To simplify medical evacuations in 1962, the 57th Commander convinced the Navy Support Activity to assign a permanent call sign and radio frequency to expedite requests for medical evacuation missions. On that day, one of the available call signs was Dust Off, which was deemed appropriate for the helicopter medical evacuation unit. Dust Off would become the call sign for medical evacuations to this day. Day or night, rain or shine, 24/7, with or without gunship escort, artillery support, attack air cover, Dust Off helicopters race to small jungle clearings, or to straddle a rice paddy, or to hover inches above a minefield, or to winch litters through the jungle canopy so others may live. The goal of Dust Off mission was to be airborne in less than 4 minutes to cut the golden hour to the golden three-quarter hour or half hour. Over 97% of those who arrived at a medical facility survived, thanks to the skill and courage of ground medics, the dedication and expertise of doctors and nurses, and hospital staff skill, and the courage and determination of Dust Off crews. Tactics and innovation used by Dust Off crews in Vietnam made possible the civilian air ambulances we see today. By October 71, John had flown more than 120 combat medical evacuation missions. On the evening of 13 October 1971, John and the 4-man crew of Dust Off found a mission remaining from the afternoon shift due to monsoon weather. The crew hoped the weather might change, so in growing darkness, flying in and out of clouds, fog and rain and turbulence, Dust Off 7-1 received radar vectors to the pickup point. While attempting contact with troops on the ground, Dust Off 7-1 and the entire crew was lost. What makes this event even more tragic was unknown to anybody at the time. The wounded patient had died long before Dust Off 7-1 took off. He was in a minefield and no South Vietnamese soldier would confirm his status. Warrant Officer John Chrin was one of only 3,400 volunteer Dust Off air crews. 0.1% of the total Allied troops who served in Vietnam, flying combat medical evacuation missions between April 1962 and March of 1973. Dust Off flew over 450,000 combat medical evacuation missions, rescuing more than 920,000 wounded and injured patients. As I stated, over 97% of those who arrived at the facility survived. The cost to Dust Off was more than 200 unarmed, non-combatant, clearly marked with Red Crosses helicopters lost in Vietnam. Almost 1,200 aircrew were wounded, flying helicopters, and 216 Dust Off crew members, including Aircraft Commander, Chief Warrant Officer Ronald K. Schultz, 20, Sergeant Hugo Gayton, Air Medic, 20, Crew Chief Michael L. Dara, 20, Trainee PFC Ricky A. Pate, 18, and Warrant Officer 1, John Stephen Chrin, Pilot, 22. John was awarded the U.S. Army Aviation Badge, Purple Heart Medal, Air Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters, National Defense Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Vietnam Gallantry Cross. Almost 900,000 wounded patients from the Vietnam War lived to return home and see their children and grandchildren, and maybe even great-grandchildren, due in large part to the service and sacrifice of dust-off units and men like John Stephen Chrin. John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Dust-off crews risked their lives many, many times and sacrificed like John for those that they would never even know. Every 13th of October is John Stephen Chrin Day in the city and county of Lebanon, and memorial services are conducted at Holy Cross Cemetery at 9 a.m. Everyone is welcome to attend. And again, we thank Representative Diamond and his staff for this event.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. And with that, on the authority of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and on behalf of its 13 million citizens and a grateful county and a grateful nation, I hereby dedicate the bridge behind us, which carries Route 934 over the Swatara Creek, to Warrant Officer 1, John Stephen Chrin. Thank you again for joining us today. May God bless the memory of John Chrin. May God bless you all, and may God bless America. As we conclude this dedication ceremony, let us remember the final honors paid to the fallen.
Honor guard. Attention. Fort Horn. Fires. About face. Unlock. Prepare to fire 3 volleys for our fallen comrades. Ready? Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. You're good. Horn. Honor guard. Fort Horn. Fires. About face.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful and safe day. Thank you, sir.